Want a second Vietnam War? That is the blunt warning now coming straight from Europe as the United States escalates its pressure on Venezuela. With U.S. warships tightening the noose around Caracas and President Donald Trump declaring a total oil blockade, President Nicolás Maduro says his country is being surrounded. But Maduro is not standing alone. Russia and Belarus have now moved firmly into his corner, rejecting Washington's claims and warning that the U.S. is walking into another catastrophic foreign war.
I see the United States of America's interest in Venezuela. I understand Trump in many ways because Venezuela is nearby, like Ukraine is near Russia. Therefore, there's interest there on many issues. I'm absolutely certain that all issues, all the wishes of the United States of America can be resolved today in an absolutely peaceful way.
Lukashenko openly draws a geopolitical parallel that Washington will not like. He compares America's pressure on Venezuela to Russia's own strategic concerns in Ukraine, arguing that proximity and influence drive great power behavior. But he says the path Trump is choosing is reckless, unnecessary, and dangerous, insisting that negotiations, not blockades or missiles, are the only way forward.
War won't lead to anything. Yesterday, I told John Cole about this. I told him it will be a second Vietnam. Do you need that? You don't. Therefore, there's no need to fight there. You can negotiate there.
Lukashenko then dismantles Washington's legitimacy argument. He dismisses U.S. refusal to recognize Venezuela's elections and turns the accusation back on America itself. In unusually blunt language, the Belarusian leader mocks the U.S. electoral process and questions how Washington can lecture others on democracy while facing its own contested results.
Venezuelans conducted elections for their people, for themselves, and the results are known. There are no other results. What, were you counting votes there instead of the Central Electoral Commission? No. Well, it's not for Americans to count votes in Venezuela. Remember when Trump was thrown, cheated in the last elections? Ballots were found under your fence, you voted by mail. Your elections were 100% falsified when Biden won, and you threw Trump to the sidelines.
On the core U.S. allegation that Venezuela fuels America's drug crisis, Lukashenko is equally dismissive. He argues drugs are a global problem driven by demand, not something that can be destroyed with military force. According to him, missiles, sanctions, and blockades will only deepen chaos, not stop trafficking.
You won't defeat drugs with missiles. This is war, this is struggle. You correctly started this fight against migration and against drugs. Trump deserves credit for raising this topic. But you can't defeat this with missiles. We need to negotiate. We need to determine joint measures of struggle.
Lukashenko also personally defends Maduro, rejecting claims that the Venezuelan leader is involved in narcotics trafficking. He describes Maduro as strong, resilient, and unwilling to flee under pressure, warning that war would only unite Venezuelans behind him and turn the country into another prolonged battlefield.
I don't think that's the case. Maduro is not a drug addict, I know that for sure.
From Caracas, Maduro responds with open defiance. He calls Trump's oil blockade piracy, accusing Washington of behaving like a colonial power seizing resources by force. As U.S. naval pressure increases in the Caribbean, Maduro urges workers across the world to resist what he calls legalized plunder and signals that Venezuela will take the confrontation to the United Nations.
So, all oil workers and all workers in the country must organize the strength of the working class in all ports in the world, throughout all the international working class, to protest against piracy of those who believe they have a letter of marque to steal the merchandises of the world. The workers should say, No to piracy, no to piracy.